What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we got round three with Art of Shock. It is great to have you back on, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. The last two times I spoke to you, too, it was during lockdown, and I didn't even have a computer that could support Zoom yet, so now we're actually doing a full video interview. It's good to be able to see you in the flesh.
Yeah, it's good to see you finally.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's so awesome to have you here. Shine of Black Light is an epic, epic album. I consider it the best Art of Shock album that we've heard so far. For people who haven't heard the full album yet, though, do you feel like the first singles that we heard so far, such as 2020 V, Death Stay Silent, and Drag Me to Hell, is a good representation of this whole album, or is that just one little taste?
It's a layer of it, because we have other very interesting songs in there. We actually went the extra mile. We had so much time, right, during lockdowns. that we actually went crazy this time. So we do have different textures. There's going to be some surprises there.
Yeah, some gentle ballads.
Yeah, we already did Drag Me to Hell, right, which is kind of a departure from
Yeah.
everything that we had done before.
Was that sort of like a preconceived vision in a way, or was this like a very improvisational songwriting process, kind of just like rolling the dice?
The thing is, like, I had no vision. Remember, our first album was supposed to come out. It literally came out of the first week when they announced the lockdowns, right?
Yeah,
So we were completely fucked.
yeah,
So the only thing I had to do was to go back to the studio and write some songs, right? But I had no compass. So I was just being creative, trying new things, interesting things that I never tried before.
Was 2020 V just inspired by that? Was that a reason why that song was titled 2020 V?
Oh yeah, it's all that desperation and frustration, that I was feeling at the moment. It's one of the first songs that actually became a song as a whole.
Wow.
It has this super big peaks and the valleys of desperation and frustration, right?
Yeah, well, it definitely makes for quite the apocalyptic introduction. But I wanted to ask too, because like with your previous album, Dark Angelas, I felt like that was very much rooted in sort of like reality in a way where like I feel like it was constantly in your face. I think it really like represented a lot of what was going on, of what we see in everyday life. Was there different subject matter demonstrated with Shine of Black Light in a way? Because just even looking at the album cover, it's like more, it looks more technical and it looks more sort of fantasy oriented.
It is not. It's actually even more real than Dark Angelus. It's I mean, the concept that glues the whole album together is this concept of black light, right? Imagine a crime scene when the forensic team shows up, right? The house might look pristine, but when they shine the black light on, they can see the carnage, right, and the blood and the gore. And I was imagining, like, what if I had one of those and I could shine it over people's minds and souls, right, and over my own. And that's how it started to develop.
That's a really interesting concept too. I'm really glad we can shine it over people's minds in a way. Was there maybe like a lot of research involved, or were you like kind of maybe like putting yourself in other people's shoes in order to sort of like achieve that concept?
Yes, it's like subjects that have always preoccupied me. Some real stories, very personal stories, like Drag Me to Hell. Stories about mental illness, uh, domestic violence, the desperation of the pandemic, depression, human condition in general.
Do you almost feel like do you almost feel like maybe because I feel like with a lot of thrash metal, I don't say it like it's a bad thing, but there's times where it's rooted very much in fantasy. We sing about, you see thrash bands sing about space and the medieval times and all this, but was the goal of Art of Shock always to sort of like look at the world head on in a way?
Yes, I guess I like other bands doing that, but I don't like doing it myself. All the fantasy and the witches and demons and all this kind of stuff. If I use the archetypes, it's like they related to something that's real, right?
Yeah.
If I talk about witches being burned at the stake, I'm talking about our present or the real world, what's happening right now in society, right? We're putting each other so fucking. That was Dark Angelus, right? In this one, I went a little deeper than that, I think.
Is there like a lot of like research in a way where like are you watching crime documentaries or are you like reading different stories or articles in order to like gather inspiration?
Well, yeah, the idea came from that, like just watching Homicide Hunter, Lieutenant Joe Kenda. I'm a big fan. So, the idea came from there. Like, what if I had a black light, that could show me
Yeah.
the bad things, the state of mind of everybody, and my own, what if I could analyze my own?
I mean, sometimes it's better to not fully understand yourself because you could lose yourself into madness, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to like, is there any specific crime story that's involved in this album as well? Because I mean, between 2020 and now, we've seen a lot of different murders. We've seen a lot of different tragedies. When I first spoke to you in the lockdown, we just entered it, so we didn't know what the world was awaiting for the next couple years. You know?
Yeah. It was quite a surprise, huh? It was a long, long time.
Yep.
And I think it took a toll on everybody's mental health. And yes, subjects like that stay silent. I was thinking, how can we get so much into depression, that it spirals down into suicide or maybe the need to hurt others, right? And it's happening all the time, and it seems normal to us nowadays, right? But it still preoccupies me a lot. I feel really bad every time I see that on the news. It's absolutely terrible. And yeah, I think we have like a mental health crisis going on. So we have that, and also, yeah, there's one song that's about injustice and crime, But that, we haven't released that one. I can talk much about. That's a surprise.
I was gonna ask if I could guess if I could guess is it Be None the Wiser, because I kind of got that sort of vibe behind it.
No, not really.
Okay, all right, yeah. What was the meaning of that particular song?
So Beyond the Wiser is just the kind of the process of the metalhead or whoever wants to have an alternative lifestyle, right? People starts calling you like, oh, you're satanic, you're bad, you're evil, blah, blah, blah. Until at some point you're like, okay, whatever. You want me to be your enemy, then I'm your enemy. I don't want to fight you anymore.
Yeah. And does your personal life or your personal experience ever become a subject matter that you're explored into Art of Shock?
Actually, yes. Drag Me to Hell is, based on a snapshot of a real events in my life.
And are you able to say specifics, or if you're allowed to?
Yeah, I actually survived domestic violence.
Oh, really?
And I'm really lucky. I had people there to support me and save me, basically, because I wasn't going to save myself. And that's what the song is about. You keep going and going, right? Even if you know that your doom is at hand, right?
Yeah, but when you have to, use that, I mean, I think it's very inspiring that you're able to use this to create art out of something that's been so detrimental. But when you have to use trauma as a means of artistic inspiration, does that make the creative process just as deteriorating as it can be cathartic as well?
It is really taxing on the mind for sure. But then it's, like you say, it's cathartic too.
Yeah.
Bringing back those old feelings, those like hidden feelings, right? It's like it kind of hurts. You feel exhausted mentally, and then you're like not sure if you even want to show this to anyone, right? This is too personal.
Does it have maybe new meaning to you as the song finishes though, and as and as it's been played more and like more people interpret it, does it develop new meaning as well?
I guess there's a lot of people, unfortunately, in the world that has went through this and gone through this, and people that's going through this nightmare, right? And it's different for everybody. There's different kinds of violence, right? And so many different stories. So yeah, people are going to interpret the song the way they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just wondering, because I feel like it's also a special year for Art of Shock, because being that you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys started in 2012. Am I wrong by that? Or
started in '09 actually, but it was kind of a different band.
Okay, because I was gonna ask, wasn't technically your first debut Live Forever?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a demo actually.
Really? Okay, I was
trying to make it look like as if it was an album, right? completely self-produced. Yeah.
Well, being that last year was the 10-year anniversary of that, was there sort of like a specific memory? What was the sort of memory with the making of that demo? How did it sort of lead into what we would hear Dark Angela's, 8 years after that?
Well, it's we didn't even think about it, which is weird, right? The 10-year anniversary is it's weird to think about it. Yeah, but we're still really good friends with our old bass player, and we hang out all the time and we reminisce of the past. And I guess that's one of the biggest reasons we're here. The reason I'm here talking to you and releasing a new album is because we did that in the first place, right? Because we were babies, not knowing anything, trying our best, creating our own path, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I was jamming Live Forever, just to going back into the Art of Shock endeavor, and when you open up with Live Forever and we hear songs like Father or Rain of Fire or Little Raven, I mean, I think that there's definitely some nostalgia to be had with it.
Oh yeah, there's that the naiveness, right, of the moment.
Yeah, right.
We were all over the place. We didn't really know. Uh, we thought we knew what we wanted, right? But we didn't really. We were just we were learning, basically, discovering things.
Yeah, but I think that's what people love about those debut albums, like where like you could tell that the band is still testing the waters and doing trials and errors, and you kind of learn along with the band you're listening to, right?
Oh yeah, and it's really cool sometimes to. I haven't in a long time, but when I do, when I hear one of those songs, it really gives me great memories.
Any chance of bringing back?
A little cringe, right? Like holy shit, what did they do?
Well, here's the thing: the artist always tends to cringe, but the listeners, you're probably gonna have diehard fans who'd be like, "Oh, could you play On the Floor, or can you play Beggars of Life? Could you play one of those deep cuts?"
That'd be fun, huh? Maybe.
Hey, never say never. I mean, again, last year was 10 years of it, so maybe play that in its entirety. Forget the new album, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A completely different story, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And the final question I wanted to talk about actually is I wanted to talk a little bit of gear, musical gear with you as well. I mean, simply put, what is in the Art of Shock arsenal in terms of what of your rig?
Well, I mostly use ESP Eclipses. I have different ones for different situations, right? I have like my normal X, which is basically a normal Eclipse. I have an Evertune Eclipse for the studio, and I have one with the Floyd Russ. And that's basically very like, bare bones rock and roll for me. I use an EVH 3 on channel 2, right? I cannot stand the channel 3. Too high gain.
But do you use ESP and EVH mainly because it best supports like the type of music that you play, or is it the gear that you've just always been using and that you're the most comfortable using?
Yeah, because that's what I'm comfortable with. Yeah, and they've been supporting us too, with artist discounts and everything. So yeah,
Yeah, ESP.
both. Right?
Yeah.
I'm really comfortable with that. That's what I like, and plus I'm getting a little help from my friends.
Yeah, of course. How did you stumble across ESP? Because it seems like it's one of the go-to metal guitar brands. Like I've always said that they need to make a big four of guitar companies for heavy metal as well. Like I would put ESP, Dean, Jackson, and I don't know what else would you put there.
Hmm. Actually, don't know, because a lot of metal players play Gibson.
Yeah, I've noticed that
You-
too. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it seems like ESP has always been the go-to metal brand. How did you come across it?
Well, I always liked ESP to begin with, and then many years ago we became friends with one of the old A&Rs, and that's how I uh, got to know them, basically.
Awesome. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for coming back on the show. Is there just anything else with Art of Shock that you'd like to promote in terms of upcoming tours and what else we could be expecting? Because this new album is epic, and I cannot wait for the rest of the world to hear it.
Well, we have 3 new singles out, and they're available on all streaming platforms. We also have a bunch of coolest merch on our website, artofshock.com, and just give it a spin and tell us what you think.
I can tell you that it is an absolute thrasher piece. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Art of Shock, Shine Black Light, coming out very, very soon this September. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, brother.